Okay, 7th graders. Like I said earlier in this chapter, these lessons that we're learning is probably some of the most useful math that you're going to learn throughout time and history. Okay? Including the relationship between fractions, decimals, and percents. How they fit together, how they work. What is this?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really quick.
Yeah.
Here.
Whoa.
Okay.
This is the matrix. Ready for this possible?
All right. Well, we'll just go with it. So we're going to be changing numbers from fraction form to decimal form, and decimal form to percent form. And percent means out of 100. So to change a decimal to a percent, you multiply the number in decimal form by 100. Right? And if we are going from percent form to decimal form, you divide by 100. You work backwards. So let's say that we have one like 0.25. Okay? Just a basic example. 0.25. Okay? To change it to a fraction form, you read the decimal. Now, don't read it as 0.25. That's just saying the digits. To read the number, you would read it as what? 25 hundredths. Good. You write the place of the last digit as the denominator. So since it's 25 hundredths, you write 25 over 100, and then simplify the fraction to 1/4. Simple enough, right? To go from 1/4 to the decimal, what would you do? Divide the numerator by the denominator. 1 divided by 4. 1 divided by 4 equals 0.25, 25 hundredths. Then to change that to a percent, you multiply the decimal by 100. So it's 25%. Okay? If you need to start with a percent, 25%, and if you divided this number 25 by 100, that's just like moving the decimal place 2 places to the left. From behind the 5, if you moved it 2 places to the left, you would have 0.25, right? Come on, right? Yeah?
Yeah.
So that's not complicated. Now, let's talk about some ones that are maybe a little more complicated. Like, what if we have mixed numbers? So what if we have a decimal like this? Oh, let's see, 12.5. How would you change that to fraction form? Well, how would you read it? How would you read that number? Devlin? 12 5/10, which is 12 1/2. First write 12 5/10, because that's how you read this. 12 5/10, which is 12 1/2. Okay? Now, how would we change this to a percent? What would that be in percent form?
12 over 1.
12 what?
12 over 1.
12 over 1. No, we would actually
Oh.
multiply it by 100,
Yes.
and that's the same as moving the decimal place 2 places to the right.
12,000?
Not 12,000.
1,200.
Good. 1,250%. Can you have that big of a percent?
No.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, any number can be changed to a percent. Okay, any number can, yes. Yep. You can have 1,250%. You can have 1,250% growth in something.
Oh, yeah.
So it just grows by a lot. Okay? That's what that means. Now, what about one like this? How would we figure this out? 0.005%. How do we change that to a decimal? And still do the same process. So, to divide by 100, you move the decimal place 2 places to the left. So this is 0.00005. Okay? Then how would you read this number? Well, you'd have to count the places. And I know you all can count the places. Starting with what's the first place called? What is this first place behind the decimal place called? Tens. Thank you. Okay, tens, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s. So how would you write this as a fraction? Alina?
5 100,000.
5 100,000s. Yep. And then, can you simplify that? What's a 100,000 divided by 5? Because we can take the 5s out and reduce this. Right. So it's actually, I'm going to write it over here, 1/20,000th. Yeah, you can move any numbers between decimal form and percent form and fraction form. Okay? So, on your worksheet, we're going to practice this. With lots of practice. Okay? It's not that hard. No. I want you to do the evens on both sides, okay? Do the evens on both sides.